So this is match 0.04% to Enigmatic male of Siberia. So let's find out a little bit about him. The Kolyma1 sample represents a 9,800-year-old Mesolithic human skeleton found at the Duvany Yar site near the Kolyma River in Yakutat, Russia, genetically identified as a male belonging to a group known as Ancient Paleo-Siberians. Kolyma1 acts as the vital missing link in understanding Native American ancestry outside of the Americas. Discovered and detailed in a landmark 2019 Nature study led by geneticist Esk Willerslev, his genome proves the closest direct genetic match to indigenous Americans ever uncovered in the Old World. The genetic profile and lineage, the DNA extracted from the Kolyma1 skull, reveals a highly distinct and crucial ancestral combination. The population. He belongs to the ancient Paleo-Siberians. This group arose from the mixing of two even older populations, East Asians who migrated north and the ancient North Siberians, represented by 31,000-year-old remains found at the nearby Yana site. Native American connection. Kolyma1 shares roughly 2/3 of his genome with living Native Americans. The haplogroups. His Y-DNA, the father line Q1A, 1B, specifically Q-M242 branches, which is a direct ancestral lineage highly prevalent among modern Native Americans. The mtDNA, the mother line, is G for golf, 1B, a maternal marker linked to Northeast Asia and Arctic populations. Prior to the sequencing of Kolyma1, scientists knew Native Americans possessed a mix of East Asian and ancient North Eurasian DNA, but they lacked a physical anchor sample in Siberia that proved when and where these groups merged. Kolyma1 proved that his exact genetic cocktail was already widespread across northeastern Siberia during the early Holocene, rewriting our understanding of human migration across the Arctic. The site consists of a towering 50-meter high cliffside made of yedoma, a type of organic rich, icy permafrost that formed during the late Pleistocene and early Holocene. As the Kolyma River flows and global temperatures rise, the frozen riverbank continuously erodes and thaws. This structural collapse regularly exposes perfectly preserved prehistoric animal bones, such as mammoths, steppe bison, and woolly rhinoceros, and ancient plant matter. The site is a highly remote positioned well above the Arctic Circle, where sub-zero temperatures have acted as a natural deep freezer for millennia. The burial and discovery. Unlike other famous ancient individuals who were found in clearly defined graves packed with ceremonial goods, Kolyma1's contextual burial was entirely shaped by the Arctic climate. It wasn't found in an intentional dug stone-lined tomb or a formal cemetery. Instead, the individual who died was quickly enveloped by the muddy, freezing sediment of the river basin nearly 10,000 years ago. The human remains, primarily a fragment of the cranium skull, were discovered by researchers scouring the exposed thawing exposures of the Duvany Yar bluff. The bone had naturally weathered out of the collapsing permafrost layers. Because the body was buried rapidly in the freezing muck, it bypassed standard decomposition. The permafrost completely halted bacterial decay, protecting the delicate biological material inside the bone. This exceptional freezing is what allowed scientists to successfully sequence his entire genome with incredible high-resolution precision. Because it was an isolated skeleton find eroded from a river bluff rather than an intact structural burial site, no specific tools, weapons, or decorative items were directly associated with his exact resting spot. Instead of a ritual monument, Kolyma's tomb was the frozen earth itself, preserving his DNA until modern river erosion finally brought his genetic secrets to light. To trace the connection between Kolyma1's maternal lineage, G1b, and my mtDNA, J1C3, you have to look all the way back to the very root of the human family tree out of Africa. Because G and J are two entirely separate primary maternal branches that evolved on opposite sides of the Eurasian continent. They do not share a recent connection. Their common maternal ancestor, their meeting point, is mitochondrial Eve, who lived approximately 150,000 to 200,000 years ago in Africa. What? Maternal DNA is passed down strictly from mother to child without blending. When early humans walked out of Africa around 60 to 70,000 years ago, the maternal line split almost immediately. The G1b path migrated eastward, anchoring itself in East Asia and Siberia. This lineage eventually adapted to the harsh Arctic climates, directly leading to Kolyma1. The J1C path migrated to northwestward into the Middle East and the Caucasus thousands of years later. These women were central to the invention and spread of agriculture into Europe. So if you're looking into your own DNA results, having J1C3 means your deep maternal roots trace back to the early European Near Eastern farmers, making you a very distant cousin to the ancient Ice Age hunters of Siberia, like Kolyma1. What was life like for Kolyma1 man 10,000 years ago? Life was defined by survival in one of the most extreme, remote, and rapidly changing landscapes on Earth. Living near the Kolyma River in northeastern Siberia, he was a member of a highly mobile group of hunter-gatherers known to geneticists as ancient Paleo-Siberians. The Kolyma1 man lived just as the last ice age was ending and the Holocene epoch was beginning. The massive glaciers had retreated, but northeastern Siberia remained bitterly cold, windswept, and dominated by dramatic seasonal extremes. The open, arid mammoth steppe of the Ice Age was actively transforming into the swampy tundra and dense boreal forest we see today. He lived during a time of ecological crisis. The woolly mammoths and woolly rhinoceroses that had sustained his ancestors for millennia were either completely extinct or rapidly dying out in isolated pockets, forcing his people to radically adapt their lifestyle. Without mammoths, communities in the Kolyma area survived entirely on a foraging and hunting economy. His diet would have been heavily meat and fish-based, consisting of large mammals, river resources, and seasonal foraging. They lived a nomadic lifestyle. They didn't live in a permanent village. His community was likely a small, tight-knit band of extended family members that moved constantly. Their travel was highly organized around animal migration patterns and predictable fish spawning cycles. They built temporary, easily transportable shelters, similar to teepees or yurts, out of animal hides and wooden poles, setting up camp near reliable resource zones. While northeastern Siberia was sparsely populated, these groups were not entirely isolated. They maintained sprawling, loose networks across Eurasia to trade high-quality stone for tools, share technology, and find mating partners outside their immediate clans. To survive, the Kolyma1 man relied on sophisticated, durable material culture tailored to a frozen environment. As a Mesolithic hunter, he used specialized, highly efficient microblade technology. Small, razor-sharp flakes of flint or obsidian were slotted into bone or antler handles to create lightweight spears, harpoons, and knives. Survival in sub-zero winters required complex multi-layered clothing. His community used bone needles and animal sinew to sew tailored, waterproof garments from reindeer fur and fish skins. Though direct artifacts are rare, Communities in this region and era were pioneering the use of early sledges, snowshoes, and primitive skins to navigate the vast snowy landscape. In summary of his reality, the Kolyma1 man's life was grueling and demanded constant physical resilience and deep environmental knowledge. Yet the region was remarkably rich in wild game. His population was successful enough to thrive in the far north for thousands of years, preserving the genetic legacy that would ultimately map the deep history of the Americas. Next on my DNA journey is Mesolithic once we're still in that era, Alaskan Sunrise Girl. I match 0.4% DNA with this sample, and it says you are genetically closer to the sample than 47.28% of other genome link users.